Alternate picking has always been kind of a mystery to me. I always wondered how like people like John Petrucci and Paul Gilbert and a lot of these really amazing players, I always wondered how are they playing so fast and so accurately? And I understood that, okay, for each pick stroke, there's a finger movement. But there had to be this little extra secret in there, and it kind of eluded me until I saw a video of Sean Lane where he was explaining the same thing. It was like in the early 90s, and he mentioned, he's like, I can't do these unless I start with an up pick. And that was interesting to me. It kind of like a light bulb went off. And then I realized that for some patterns, if I start with an up pick or a down pick, they tend to flow a little bit better. So for example, if I'm going to use the classic Paul Gilbert in E minor. I love him. Before, if I was going to do that, I would maybe start with an up pick and then I'd kind of stumble in the middle. But what happens with alternate picking is you're literally alternating. So there's not like a double up or like another downstroke. It's kind of like if you figure out, okay, for this particular pattern, if I know that I need to start with a down pick, then the rest of it will run smoothly. So with this example, it's just like first finger on the 4th fret on the G, pinky 7th fret on the D, middle finger 5th fret on the D, first finger 4th fret on the D, and then middle finger 5th fret on the D, pinky 7th fret on the D, and then I'm back up to that 4th fret, first finger G string. So it just alternates. In that particular example, if I was going to start with an up pick, it would immediately I'd fall over myself. But if I know in my mind, okay, I'm doing that pattern, so I need to start with a down pick, then it works out. And then eventually the more you do it, you don't really have to think about it at all. It just becomes part of you. So, for example, with that same finger pattern, I'm going to kind of, just like in that sweep picking video I did, there's a certain formula to it. Okay, so for this, down on the G string, up on the D string, down on the D string again, up on the D string, and I'm kind of coming back up. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then it ends up repeating. So it's like a triplet kind of thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So same thing, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So if you stick to that and don't start with an upstroke, then it'll all alternate and it'll be smooth. Petrucci said one time, if you trust the guide of the pick, especially when you're getting into the or something like that, just going off, you kind of just have to trust that the pick is just going to go back and forth and all the notes are going to line up. I'm just going to sum that example up. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then eventually it just kind of works up the speed. So yes, you can set the metronome to do this. Set it slow at first, down, up, down, up, down, up, up. You know what I mean? But what I did is I would watch TV and just kind of practice these little patterns. So, for example, with this, watching The office or something.
www.creedthoughts.gov.www/creedthoughts. Check it out.
There's no metronome. In fact, I'm paying attention to something else because this in itself is kind of boring. Nobody really just wants to sit around and do that. That's a great way to do it. If you're practicing like a Bach sonata or something like that, you should probably be in your practice room with the metronome on. If you're practicing something mundane like this, it's okay just to be doing something else and just kind of, because it does, especially if you're doing like finger patterns and stuff like that, if you're doing like... I learned that by watching TV too. I just practiced this. That pattern by watching TV while I was watching TV. And then it eventually became a lot faster. You should, at some point, put on the metronome just to make sure you're getting it nice and accurate. You can kind of figure out the rest on your own. Take that part out. You don't have to figure out the rest on your own. What's the point of the video then? This is the basic idea, just to start out. So we're going to expand on this idea. So like I said, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Or you can reverse it. So for example, if I was going to do this, in that case, I'd start with an up pick. So if it's pinky, 7th fret on the D, 1st finger, 4th fret on the G, middle finger, 5th fret on the G, pinky, 7th fret on the G, middle finger, 5th fret on the G, 1st finger, 4th fret on the G, and then I just come back around, so. This would put us in A minor. It's going to be different. Before, when we did this, we started with a down pick. But because the pattern changed to this, the pattern is going to be a little bit different. The finger pattern is the same, but the picking pattern is going to be different because we're going a different direction. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up. One more time. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So when you eventually come back around, it'll always return to that upstroke. Just like when I did this, it'll always return to that downstroke that you started with. It's very nice. So that's kind of the secret in a sense. I know it's not like super like mind-blowing or anything, but realizing this, it just kind of comes back around. Or so for a particular pattern, you're starting with an up pick or a down pick, then it kind of just takes care of itself in a sense. I'm going to start this one out slow. Up, down, 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 up. So. And all of that, it's the same thing. It's just up, down, and then that upstroke is beat 1. So it's all like triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We took one pattern. Okay, that starts with the downstroke, and we took another pattern. Okay, that starts with an upstroke. Now I'm just going to let you know just a few rules that I abide by. So for example, if I start on a particular string and I'm moving downward, so for example, I'm working my way from the B string to the E string. So I'm on the B string for the first 3, and then I'm on the high E string for the second set of 3. Whenever I'm doing something like that, going downwards, like I said, this is just kind of direction. It's not pitch. Downward is the other way. But if I'm going from the B string to a lower string or higher string in this sense, you guys know what I mean. start with an up pick. So whenever I'm doing a pattern like that, if I'm doing something like that, going from the B string to the high E string, I'm starting with an up pick. And all that's going on there, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then I switch to the next one. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Go to the next position. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Next position. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Sorry. So as you can see, it's really just going up, down, up on the B string, and then down, up, down on the high E string. And then when I come back to the B string, so up, down, up, down, up, down. And then when I go to the next position, I'm starting back on the B string, and it is an upstroke. Okay, so up, down, 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 up, down. So it's the same thing. The only thing that's really changing is I'm just moving the pattern. So. Just know when you're going in that kind of direction. Doesn't matter if it doesn't have to be on the B string or the high E string. It could be like, okay, let's do E again. Okay, so same thing. If I'm just going from, in this case, the D string down to the G string. It's starting with an upstroke. Up, down, up, down, up, down, switch. Up, down, switch. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? So trust the guide of the pick. Start slow. If I can do it, you guys can do it. It gets pretty easy after a little while. Like I said, you don't have to just set the metronome and start and then work your way up. You can do that, and that's good to do that. But like I said, if you're watching TV or something, or you're on your laptop, just try to get this motion. You know what I mean? Just try to get that going, and then it eventually works its way up the speed. Now, if I'm going the opposite way, so let's say if I'm here. In that case, it's reversed. I'm going from the high E string up to the B string. Like I said, it's not pitch-wise, because that would be down. But when I say up, I'm going from this E string to the B string. So like I did before, when I was going from the B string to the E string, I'm doing an upstroke, I'm reversing it. Now I'm going from the E string to the B string. It's reversed now. So instead of starting with an upstroke on the B string, now it's starting with a downstroke on the E string. So, starting on the E string, it's I'm not going to go through the whole pattern. I guess I'll just stay here. Pinky 14th on the E, middle 12th on the E, first finger 10 on the E, ring finger 13 on the B, middle finger 12 on the B, first finger 10 on the B. So, starting with a downstroke. Down, up, down, up, down, up. And then by the time I go back to the E string, that downstroke is just waiting for us. So like I said, down, up, 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 down, up. You don't have to do any it's just, that's why it's called alternate picking. It's just going back and forth, down, up, down, down. This isn't economy picking where you're doing or whatever. You don't have to do any raking or anything like that. So, down, up, down, switch. Down, up, down, down. Down, up, down, up, switch. Down, up, down, switch. switch, down, up, down, up, down, up. So. And if you just follow that formula, just like I did with the sweep picking video, it's just down, up, down, up, down, up, switch, down, up, down, up, switch, down, up, down, up, switch. It just alternates. And like I said, this doesn't just apply to the E string or the B string. If I'm on the G string going up to the D string, same rule, start with a down pick. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. So just reviewing. If I'm going down from the B string to the E string or any other string, start with an up pick. So, up, down, up, down, up, up. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Switch. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Switch. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? Now if I'm going the opposite way, from the E string to the B string, coming up, I start with the down pick. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Switch. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Switch. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Switch. Down, up, down, up, down, up. It's like the hardest part of this whole thing, is just saying it. Keep those rules in mind. They will become a part of you. If you're doing like a run or something like that, I don't know what to do. Like, if you end up doing a run and you're just kind of freestyling, the better you get at it, obviously you won't have to think about it anymore. It'll just become a part of you, it'll become muscle memory. But you just have to know, if I'm doing a particular pattern, okay, I have to start with a downstroke. Then it'll all line up and I won't have to, get caught up and trip over myself. Or if I'm doing another pattern like this, just know, okay, if I'm going to do that particular pattern, I do an upstroke. You can get a little bit more in depth to this. We can kind of break down, say, bigger patterns. But I just wanted to let you know, hopefully in this short video, I tried to make it short. I just want to let you know that if you're doing a particular pattern, just make a mental note. Okay, I'm gonna do the Paul Gilbert. If I'm gonna do that, start with a downstroke, and then it'll come back to the downstroke. If you start with a particular pattern and it starts with an upstroke, it'll start and end with an upstroke. It'll just come back, so you won't have to trip over yourself. Just know that it's not as big of a mystery as you think it is. Yes, you have to sync up your hands. Right there, I just started with an upstroke without even thinking about it, and I tripped over myself. Start with a downstroke when you do that. Yes, you have to sync up your hands, and it's kind of difficult. I understand that. But if you implement or be mindful of this rule, or at least these ideas, not really a rule, just a concept, just know that if you're doing a particular pattern, it's like, okay, I have to start. If I'm going that direction, I start with an upstroke, and it'll end with an upstroke. But if I'm going this way, in that direction, it's going to start with a downstroke. And this doesn't necessarily apply just to those 3-note string patterns like that. It also can apply to the pentatonic ideas that you hear John McLaughlin and Mahavishnu do, or Zach Wilde is famous for this. So for example, if we're in D minor pentatonic, what we're going to do is the famous that kind of thing. he's doing it, it's ring finger 13th fret on the E, first finger 10th fret on the E, and then ring finger again, 13th fret on the B string, first finger 10th fret on the B, 10th fret on the B string. So the pattern for that, so it's 13, 10, 13, 10, and then next string 13, 10. So the picking pattern for that, we're going to start with an upstroke. So it's up, down, up, down, up, down. So it's 4 strokes on the high E string, up, down, and then I'm going to move up to the B string and then do another up and then down. Okay, so up, down, next string, up, down. So it's like a group of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? So it's like, if you speed it up. If I were to start that pattern, it's the same concept as everything else. If I'm going to start that pattern with a downstroke, I'm going to just trip over myself. That's why it's important if you're doing a specific pattern, okay, I start with an upstroke, or okay, I start with a downstroke. So just remember that. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. One more pattern before we go. This one. Another Zakk Wylde pattern. 13, ring finger 13 on the E, and then I'm going to extend my pinky out. Sorry, non-pinky players. 15th fret on the high E, and then back to the 13. So 13, 15, 13, and then 10 on the E string, and then 13 on the B string, and then 10 on the B string again. So, and then the picking pattern for that, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So it's the same thing, I'm just extending my pinky out to get that other note, but the picking pattern has stayed the same. Up, down, up, down, up, down. It's 4 strokes, like 4 strokes on the high E string and 2 on the B. So. One more time. If I stick to that formula, up, down, up, down, up, down. If you don't want to just practice these mundane patterns like this, it's good to find a piece of music that you like that may have a difficult picking pattern in it. Then it's like, okay, well, if I really want to learn this song, then I have to learn this part. So treat that part of the song. Treat that part of the song as part of the part of an exercise. So, for example, Overture 1928 by Dream Theater is. It's the same thing, just kind of figure out, if I start with a downstroke on that pattern, I immediately fall apart. But if you, sometimes the rules will change, it just depends on the pattern itself. But just know, like, for me, if I'm going to play that, I need to know, okay, when you get to that pattern, start with an upstroke. So, up, down, up, down. I'm not going to go through the whole process of it, but when I do that pattern, I'm starting with an upstroke, and it's just alternating. There's no double up or double down or anything like that. It's just... And it all lines up. And in fact, it ends on an upstroke. Okay? All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully it was helpful to you and informative. And if you have any questions, you could always, send me a message. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, any videos like this, then you can just subscribe. All right? Peace.